together and share their experiences as to how they were navigating through this quite extraordinary human event that has put virtually the entire human race in some form of lockdown and social distancing, and to take counsel together as to how we can more effectively have an impact on the world so that the future beyond the pandemic is more sustainable, more resilient, more abundant, more healthy, and in greater alignment with natural systems. We, the World, is one of our partnering organizations, and so Humanity Rising has wanted to support what they're doing, and we're very appreciative to what Rick Ulfig has done over the past more than a decade as he's tirelessly worked to create the kind of global unity that would enable humanity to fashion the world we know is possible. And we know our children under the fourth and fifth and sixth and seventh generations so richly deserve. So thank you everyone for joining us. And Rick, it's an honor to be partnering with you for this event.
Thank you, Jim. It's an honor to partner with you as well.
Good.
Okay.
Well done, man. Well done.
We did it. It took some doing, didn't it?
It took some doing, but you know, every journey on May 22nd, Ubiquity and up 400 different partnering organizations from all over the world convened what we have been calling on 22nd, Ubiquity and upwards of 4 Humanity Rising. So Humanity Rising has wanted to support what they're doing, and we're very appreciative to what Rick, 400 partnering organizations from around the world convened Humanity Rising as an offering in the midst of the pandemic, so that every day people could come together and share their experiences as to how they were navigating through this quite extraordinary human event that has put virtually the entire human race in some form of lockdown and social distancing, and to take counsel together as to how we can more effectively have an impact on the world so that the future beyond the pandemic is more sustainable, more resilient, more abundant, more healthy, and in greater alignment with natural systems. We the World is one of our partnering organizations, and so Humanity Rising has wanted to support what they're doing, and we're very appreciative to what Rick Ulfig has done over the past more than a decade as he's tirelessly worked to create the kind of global unity that would enable humanity to fashion the world we know is possible. And we know our children under the fourth and fifth and sixth and seventh generations so richly deserve. So thank you everyone for joining us. And Rick, it's an honor to be partnering with you for this event.
Thank you, Jim. It's an honor to partner with you as well. And it's really been a pleasure working with you and Humanity Rising. It's really wonderful that we're collaborating here with for the 11 Days of Global Unity, and this is the 16th anniversary of 11 Days of Global Unity. So as Jim said, my name is Rick Ulfig. I'm the founder of We the World and the We campaign at we.net. We the World is an international coalition building organization that creates and promotes programs, platforms, and campaigns to unite and amplify the efforts of change makers worldwide working for the common good. And by the way, I don't know if you can see Kermit up here on the bookcase behind me. Our dear friend and partner, Carol Hart, helped to launch Sesame Street more than 45 years ago. She worked closely with the 13 indigenous grandmothers, and we worked together on an urgent message from your children at weyourchildren.org. Unfortunately, she passed recently, and her life's important work and her fun-loving spirit live on. And Kermit helps us to kind of remember her and keep that balance in our lives. I just thought I would mention that. We are excited to open this 16th anniversary of 11 Days of Global Unity with this summit on the future of humanity. And we're also opening the Up Convergence, which will be followed by Peace Weekend, all during 11 Days of Global Unity, September 11th through September 21st, the UN International Day of Peace. And I am deeply honored and inspired to welcome today some of the most visionary thinkers and activists on the planet: Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Vandana Shiva, Audrey Kitagawa, Kahan Takwas, Diane Longboat, and Yvette Taki. There are some who believe humanity is at an inflection point. We are living through a confluence of multiple intersecting crises, including systemic racism, catastrophic inequality, climate disruption, the mass extinction of species, and the COVID-19 global epidemic. At the same time, because of communications technology, more people than ever are making their voices heard that another kind of world is actually possible, given the solutions on hand. The question is, will we learn what we believe, or what many of us believe is the central lesson of the epidemic, that our collective well-being depends on the well-being of each member of our societies, including the animals, plants, and ecosystems that we are a part of. This is the essence of a we-based culture. Can we heal the long-standing wounds that divide us in order to create a we-based society that prioritizes the common good? To talk about this, let's bring in our guests and let's find out what they feel is necessary for us to thrive as a global community, and what is their call to action. Let's start with Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Desmond Tutu received the Nobel Prize for Peace for his role in the opposition to apartheid in South Africa. Nelson Mandela appointed Desmond Tutu head of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which investigated allegations of human rights abuses during the apartheid era. Desmond Tutu has not only been a champion of human rights, he has also worked to stop global warming and climate disruption. And he, along with Jane Goodall and Deepak Chopra and many others, helped to launch 11 Days of Global Unity back in 2004. Thank you, Desmond Tutu.
First, I'd like to express my gratitude to We the World for your continued coalition building work and activism, especially with 11 days of global unity. Congratulations on this being the 16th anniversary. 11 days of global unity has turned into a beautiful international movement with 11 campaigns that serve people and the planet who are living at a time of great pain and uncertainty. The COVID-19 pandemic has afflicted millions of people and undermined economies around the world. It is painful to see how much my own country, South Africa, has suffered. The people who are most vulnerable have been harmed the most. Unfortunately, this is the case around the world. When will we realize that we are all one human family? When will we see that if one of us is hurt, we are all hurt? That is what a society based on we rather than me looks like. I am also concerned about the reaction by some to the recent protests in many countries about ending racism and inequality. The protests came about after we all saw the killing of George Floyd in the United States of America. Unfortunately, a small number of people have committed acts of violence and vandalism during the protests, which has been used by authorities and others to discredit the main message and the people who are marching and calling for change. This is to be expected when those holding power and privilege don't want to let go of their advantage. So I ask, when will empathy become valued in our leaders and institutions? If people and communities are crying out for change, when will those with privilege and power allow themselves to imagine what it is like to walk in the shoes of the oppressed? This is why truth and reconciliation may be one way forward. I understand that we, the world, has a proposal for truth and reconciliation hearings. If they are done carefully, learning from mistakes that were made in the past, perhaps this is a way to foster empathy between people in groups that have been in conflict for so long. One other area that I think is important to bring up, if we are talking about the future of humanity, is the climate crisis. Because of the pandemic, the use of fossil fuels slowed down and the air got cleaner for a brief moment. However, we are once again seeing the devastating effects of extreme weather that is fueled by global warming, record-breaking high temperatures, unusually strong hurricanes, and highly destructive wildfires. So it is essential that we keep advocating for a transition to renewable energy sources worldwide. Thank you again for allowing me to share my thoughts. I am grateful to We the World, 11 days of global unity, and all of you who are committed to working together for a more peaceful, just, and sustainable world. That is putting the we in We the World. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Desmond Tutu. Now let's hear from Kahantakwas Diane Longboat. Thank you. Kahantakwas Diane Longboat, MED, is a member of the Turtle Clan and Mohawk Nation at Six Nations Grand River Territory. She is a ceremonial leader, traditional teacher, and healer. Diane was co-chair of the Indigenous Peoples Program of the Parliament of the World's Religions, convening over 100 Indigenous spiritual leaders to share their wisdom traditions with 9,000 delegates at a time when humanity is challenged with the crises of Earth changes. Welcome to the Summit on the Future of Humanity, Kahantakwas Diane Longboat.
Thank you so much, Rick. And thank you
yes.
to the organization for all of its work and the extraordinary 16th anniversary that we have in front of us. I'm so grateful to be here with such an esteemed panel and to share some thoughts about the congruence and the confluence of all of these challenges to humanity at this point in time.
Yes. And so before you give us your perspective on the current situation of the world and possibilities for the future, could you possibly bring us kind of into the circle together for this conversation, maybe with a meditation or prayer, and then please give us your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. I'm grateful to be able to have that opportunity. I'm burning some medicine here now, which in our way is a medicine to purify ourselves, to bring our hearts and minds together as one, and to help us to focus on those issues of the day and to help us to bring together a plan for moving forward for humanity. And so as simple human beings, we have a lot of gifts and we have a lot of capacities. But when we connect with the Spirit, we have so much more power, insight, and ability to initiate change. So I want to offer these words of thanksgiving on behalf of all of us. Yahweh, Sambwe Disan, Ganalungwa, Skana, Gahandagwas Yunyats. Thank you, Creator, the one who made all things. My name is Gahandagwas. She's picking sweetgrass. And I give thanks this day for the gift of life. I bring my family into this circle, and I include in this circle all humanity, the beautiful faith traditions, the cultures, the languages, and the places that we live in the world. We give thanks this day for the mineral life that is underneath our feet, swirled together from the dust and the pollens in the most beautiful places in the universe to create this Mother Earth for us. The great waters that are upon the earth, the salt waters, the fresh waters, the rain waters, and of course the birth waters, those waters that tell us that the Creator still has confidence in us, that we are going to follow moral and ethical pathways that will be in concert with the natural laws and the spiritual laws that each of the human family have been given. We honor the oldest form of life upon the earth, which is the plant life, the one that we turn to for our medicines, to restore ourselves and strengthen ourselves, and particularly our immune systems during this time of a great pandemic sweeping the face of Mother Earth. We give thanks this day for the medicine plants, the sacred plants, the sage, the cedar, tobacco, and sweetgrass. For the sacred tobacco is a gift from the spirit world that was brought here by a spirit being as the earth was being created, and remains our strongest and our most powerful medicine of connection with the spirit world. We give thanks and honor this day for all the medicine plants that are here, and the strawberry plant being the lead of all of our medicine plants in our area, because all parts of it are used to cleanse the blood system. We thank all of the standing tree people. And here we have the maple trees that give us maple water in the springtime to cleanse us and to give us the sweetness of life through the maple syrup. We honor all of those trees because collectively they can heal, and individually they are targeting various ailments and illnesses in the human family. We honor all of the council of creation, the great animal kingdom that sits in council, and our brothers and sisters to us, to all of the beings that are alive in the great waters upon the earth, and to all of the beings that are the flyers in the air. We acknowledge you and say we understand your relationship to us in this lifetime. We give thanks this day for the four winds, the grandfather winds that cleanse and refresh Mother Earth, and to all of the thunder beings that come and join us to bring us rain, to heal the land, to refresh and nourish the waters upon the earth, and to ionize and cleanse the air. We understand that there are sacred beings that the Creator put in place for the human family, for when we fall off our pathways, that these beings have been sent to bring us great teachings in our major faith traditions, and they have brought us teachings to be able to understand what it is to be a human being and what it is to take care of the earth and to take care of each other. We understand that those stars represent our ancestors, that the Grandmother Moon represents first being that was upon the earth here. She is female, and Grandmother Moon takes care of the female life, the continuance of fertility upon the earth, so that life can blossom and continue in all of its beauty. We honor that grandfather, the sun, who brings light and life to the world, for all things are made of sunlight. And to that great star formation that we call the Milky Way, we honor the Milky Way. It is a place where we will walk across in the time to come, as our souls walk across that bridge to return to the place of peace where we were all created. Our ancestors are there. Their fires are burning. Their prayers are consistently offered for us, for they understand what it is to be a weak and an ignorant human being, to have only one drop of wisdom where the Creator has all wisdom. And those ancestors continue to pray for us. And indeed, many of them have been lowered here during this time of great challenge to walk with us and to guide us. We honor all of those spiritual beings that assisted the Creator at the time of creation. And those spiritual beings are the ones that bring us dream and vision and teaching and guidance. And to you, Sangwe Dison, I raise up my family now from the various parts of the world, from the beauty of all the original families that were created here. The red people, the black people, the yellow people, and the white people. The many cultures that have evolved from those original times, the rich heritage and traditions that we all carry. And I say to you, Sangwe Dison, this day, we will fulfill the prophecy of the four families coming together again. We will fulfill the prophecy that we will learn to live in concert with natural law and spiritual law. And so with these words, we commit our work here this day, for we are the ones that have been asked today to bring our thoughts, our minds, our hearts together. And we do that, honoring you, knowing that you are the great wisdom keeper. So with these words, we give thanks this day and say Nyawa. Thank you, Rick.
Well, thank you so much. Did you want to make any comments about what Desmond Tutu said, or any thoughts about the current confluence of crises that we are facing at this time and thinking about the future? Go ahead, Diane.
Thank you. Honoring We the World for doing this work. It is great work being done in the world, and the transmission of these messages, will awaken the spiritual fires that each of us carry throughout the world. People will find their source, and they will manifest that source in their daily lives according to the work that you've been doing here today. So thank you to We the World. I want to share with you a message that one of our elders shared with us, and that is the hurt of one is the hurt of all, that the honor of one is the honor of all. And I want to go back to a piece that Desmond Tutu raised for us, and that is empathy. Empathy, that generous, kind heart. And I think we're at a point in our evolution as human family that we have to talk about a concept that comes from our people called Kaniko Rio, the good mind. That good mind is a mind that is connected to the Creator. It understands the sacredness of those original teachings that we were given as a people on how to take care of each other, how to resolve war and conflict, how to live peaceably with one another, how to share the land and all of its resources so that everyone has enough. Going back to that concept of the good mind, understanding friendship, understanding that when you have an understanding of natural law and spiritual law, you have peace. And I think as human beings that we have been told very clearly, and I remember this from the 1960s, being told by scientists that we are coming into a global climate crisis. They were pushed to the side with the knowledge that they had. No one wanted to really listen to them. There were so many other economic things that people were interested in post-World War II. So we were told many, many decades ago that this was going to evolve. Our scientists and our medical experts tell us that we were to expect another wave of a pandemic after SARS. And our spiritual leaders indeed told us in 2012 in my community that there was going to be a global pandemic and that it was going to affect the lungs of the people, that we were to get ready with the medicines that we had. And, I really want to uphold the women leaders in my community, because those women leaders went out and they made it their business to learn about medicines, how medicines work together, when to pick them, how to work with them, and then began to teach others. And so really in our community, we have been very well taken care of and very, very protected with the traditional medicines. What we have in front of us today is a radical change of course. And it is a fulfillment of the prophecies of Indigenous peoples. Our Indigenous wisdom traditions told us about these confluence of hatred, racism, sickness of the human family in spirit, in heart, in mind, and in body, and told us how to prepare for that. So I want to share with you today that, you know, one of the things that is most important for us to understand is that we as the people have the power to make the changes that we need to make in the world. If you are waiting for your governments to make the changes, you will be waiting many, many lifetimes. This is our duty, our responsibility as human citizens in this planet to make the changes. We start with self, with family, with community. The alignment has to be looked at of how all of these organizations are working throughout the world, and yet there is no alignment. We have such an individualistic way of doing our work. We set up corporations, we set up not-for-profits, we set up charities, and they individually do their work. The time for separate movements is over. And those movements need to now align with each other to mutually support each other in this great work. The great work ahead is not to dismantle government. It's not to dismantle the economic system. The great work ahead is to rebuild a governance system, an economic system, a health system, a legal system, a social services system that is based on what Desmond Tutu told us: empathy, care for all, feeding all, sharing with all. That is a consciousness in the human being that we need to see as a total societal change of values. And yes, there will be some resistance to that, as we see, you know, in our newscasts in North America every day. There is resistance to that. But I want to encourage all of the people who are listening to this broadcast to understand we collectively, of the mindset of mutual aid, mutual support, we are no longer in the minority. We are the majority. We, the world, is the majority. And collectively, if we align our organizations, we can make the changes that we need to make. This is a time when our prophecies tell us we are being watched by the Creator for how we are looking at this problem. Are we looking at it as how the Hopi people would say, you know, the changes are coming whether you want the changes to come or not? So imagine a great river. So in our area, it would be the Niagara River. And some people who want to resist change are hanging on to the side of that river. They're grasping on to any of the shrubs and trees, overhanging trees and branches that they can hang on to. And they're saying, please don't change. Please let my life be the same as it was. And then the Hopi prophecy says, when you see this happening, jump into the middle of the river to the strongest current and say, I am the change. This is the change that I want to see in the world. And I want to say to all of the speakers that are here today and our beloved Desmond Tutu, we prayed for this change. Honestly, did you not all pray for this change? I know I did. And I know that in our Longhouse this year, in our midwinter ceremonies, which are our highest ceremonies of the year, initiating a new cycle, this is what our faith keepers said to us. They said, everything that we have prayed for from midwinter of 2019 to now midwinter of 2020 has been done with prayer and high intention for the best for all life beings. Now we find ourselves in this time of early February 2020. And we say to you that this year of 2020 is going to be the year of miracles upon miracles. And you know, we the people who were sitting in the Longhouse listening to them speak to us and give us messages, it was unusual for them to say those kinds of messages, because usually the ceremonies are very strict in the opening, which I did a little bit today, but our faith keepers, the males, faith keepers will stand and sing that opening for 45 minutes, and it's magnificent. So that message of miracles upon miracles is with us today. And I think that that's an important one to focus on. Focus on the rebuilding, focus on realignment, focus on the natural laws of Mother Earth that all of us are bound to, and focus on the spiritual laws that are universal for all faith traditions. And we will move ahead together and collectively. So I'm so grateful for this opportunity to share today. And I uphold all of you in my prayers and in our ceremonies and in our lodge. And I thank you for being those thought leaders in the world and action-oriented leaders that are bringing change.
And thank you for being a thought leader and activating change around the world too. Diane Longboat. Let's bring in Vandana Shiva. Vandana Shiva is a world-renowned environmentalist and activist. Over the past 3 decades, she has tried to be the change she wants to see in the world. She says, the defense of nature's rights and people's rights have come together for me in Earth democracy, the democracy of all life on Earth, a living democracy which supports and is supported by living culture and living economies. Let us together build an Earth family. Let us, in our diversity, create an Earth democracy. Welcome to the broadcast, Vandana Shiva. And your work and your life has connected the local to the global in a unique way that really serves us all. I'm so inspired, and I think millions of people have been so inspired that you've been doing this work, and we're so happy today that you are joining us. Please tell us how your work and your values are shaping your response to this confluence of challenges humanity is facing at the moment.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Jim. Thank you to We the World and to Humanity Rising. And I think one of the issues of power and control is it so erases life on Earth. It so erases other cultures. It cannot see when there is a rising taking place, like those little plants that burst through the concrete. And I think everywhere the grass is bursting forth, because that is the nature of life. That is the urge of the human spirit. I wrote Space Staying Alive in the 80s, when I saw how for the women of my region, this act of empathy that Bishop Tutu talked about, was expressed in the defense of nature, where women came out and hugged the trees and said, you will have to kill us before you kill the tree. And that's how we saved the forests. And at one level, that has been my inspiration, and I've learned that on the one hand, you have to say no, but you can't say an empty no. You have to say a no where you bring your love, your being between the destruction and that which you love. And that's what my Sisters of Chipko did. And in a way, that's what I've done for 35 years, to care for the seed, to actually address a crazy illusion that a seed is a machine invented by a few poison makers. And I was at a meeting where they said this in 87, and I said, here goes craziness one step more, insanity of power, of hubris. And I said, but you don't invent the seed. And the seed is not a machine. Seed is the continuity of life. And I'm going to do a Chipko of the seed. And that's what I've done. I started the movement Navdanya. So it looks like what is happening is multiple crises are converging. Coming from the South, being a woman of the third world, being a defender of nature, I actually see all of these crises as multiple symptoms of one phenomenon. Whether it is climate change and extinction. Extinction is violating the rights of all beings to be on this planet. because you assign to yourself the right to be the only being who counts through anthropocentrism, through the separation from nature. And I worked in solidarity to fight against apartheid. My own teacher, Gandhi, who gave us the word, be the change you want to see, began his first satyagraha, the fight for truth, fighting against racism in South Africa, where the first racism was against Indians. And only in the 40s did they bring the apartheid laws. But I call the separation in our heads between humans and nature the ecological apartheid. Apartheid is at the heart of our violence against nature. It is at the heart of climate change, because what is climate change but violating the planetary boundaries and ignoring them? What is the pandemic? Violating ecosystems boundaries of the beautiful forests and the rights of indigenous people, and then you spread the new infectious diseases. This is recorded by science. Where is the injustice from? The indigenous people, the most prosperous at the time of colonialism, their wealth was looked at. For the people of North America, it was the furs. For my country, it was the spices and the textiles. In Africa, it was the land and the diamond and the gold. In Latin America, it was gold, the silver, the plants. Basically, what we see happen is an invasion, an enclosure of what belongs to the people, and they take care of it, an extraction of one thing from beautiful ecosystems, of one element from the ground. It could be oil today, but it's also the diamonds and the rare earths. And the privatization and patenting that goes with it, this putting a stamp, this is mine. And this is what, on the one hand, destroys the limits of nature, along with the idea that the earth is dead, because colonialism went hand in hand with the rise of mechanical philosophy and went hand in hand with the witch hunts, you know, kill the learned women, kill the women of wisdom for the birth of masculine time, to conquer nature. Being part of nature is effeminate. We are going to be masters and conquerors and owners of nature. And that's why we are at the brink, ecologically. But when you appropriate resources and leave nothing for people, you will have poverty. When you do not allow people to grow their own food, you will have hunger. And when you create a food system based on extraction at every level, extracting genes from seeds and extracting money from peasants and patenting them, you have a crisis for the farmers. In my country, we've lost 400,000 farmers. So how do we overcome the inequality, and you know, racism was a child of colonialism. I mean, so beautifully Diana talked about, you know, the yellow and the red and the white and the black, and they were just colors, and we celebrated colors. And it wasn't that humanity wasn't interacting. My country was trading spices with the world for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, mixing with every color, and it did not give rise to racism. Racism was born with an extractive colonialism, a dominating colonialism, a colonialism based on commerce as war. And sadly, we define this as economy. Economy is taking care of our common home. Economy is the art of living. And I think one of the reclaimings we need to do is reclaim the economy from warfare. You know, colonialism was not about building an economy. They built nothing. They extracted. And they took away humanity of the indigenous people, saying you're not fully human. Therefore, you can be exterminated. The earth is alive. And every step we take must be with love and caution. That is following the natural law. For me as a scientist, is following ecological law. But part of that ecological law is the recognition that humans are part of the earth family. And because humans are part of the earth family, every human has a right to their share of living space, of the land, of the water, of their plants, of their knowledge, of their decision making. And I see earth democracy as living democracy, working with the earth in co-creation and co-production, living economies, living democracy as a democracy of the earth, and us as part of the earth, taking instruction, taking permission, which is how indigenous people have always lived, which is why we didn't push our fish to extinction and our medicinal plants to extinction. We always took permission. We took permission from soil to farm her. We took permission from the seed to sow her. And this seeking permission goes hand in hand with the other side of closing the cycle, a gratitude and a law of return. An extractive system has no place for gratitude. It has no place for recognition of what they have received. And that's where the violence of racism and injustice and inequality comes from. And this is where we need to build living cultures. And living cultures grow from recognizing we are part of one earth, we share this earth with other beings, that everyone has a right to live on this earth. And this unity that we are celebrating today doesn't come from the top through sameness and uniformity and standardization and the monoculture of the mind. It grows from the ground up in diversity. So unity in diversity is the seeking we are all engaged in. Against a unity through coercion, through sameness, through bulldozing, treating diversity as a disease, treating difference as a threat. And I think some of the basic ontological definitions that occurred during the time of colonialism, in a strange way, this climax is making them irrelevant. And now we are at a fork where some people will coercively try and defend their control over the earth, their control of society. And on the other hand, there is a humanity rising. And every time I see a terrible storm, I say, well, the earth has always been rising anyway. We just ignored that she is alive, but our ignorance of her life didn't make her dead. She is very alive, and our partnership with the earth is the way to the future. Our co-creation and co-production in humility, that we are just one among her trillions of species. And we need to play our role with responsibility, with care, with gratitude, with devotion.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Vandana. Let's hear from Jamie Margolin. Jamie Margolin. Jamie Margolin is a youth climate activist and founder of This Is Zero Hour. Frustrated by the inaction of elected officials and the fact that youth voices were almost always ignored in the conversation around climate change and the profound impact that it would have on young people, Jamie started gathering several of her friends in the summer of 2017 to start organizing something big, something hard to ignore. So, Jamie, can you tell us more about This Is Zero Hour? And of course, welcome to the broadcast. And please react to anything you've heard so far. And please give us your perspective on the big picture as you see it, and your message to people who are wondering where humanity is headed. Thank you, Jamie.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. And sorry I'm late to the broadcast. I was having some technical difficulties, but now we figured it out and I'm here. I just want to thank what everyone has been saying before. I really agree with Dr. Vandana Shiva, and I've been on a panel before last year. So it is great to see her again here, though virtually. It was last year before we all had to, before Corona times. I guess where I see the world headed is, it's quite difficult because I've reached a point in my life where I'm kind of at a crossroads. There's just been, I've been doing this work for not a long time compared to most people on the call. I've been doing it for 4.5 years since I was 14 years old. And I know that doesn't seem like a lot, I guess, in terms of in comparison to everyone, but I guess in my little life, I'm 18, so I've been doing it for 4 years of that, a little over 4 years of that, almost 5 years of that. It is a big chunk because it took away, all of my high school years, everything like that. And it was easy for me to get like consistently like burnt out in this work because I was managing a full-time high school schedule, and now I just moved to college. I'm going to New York University studying film and television, and so now I'm like balancing film school with that. So it's always been a struggle because I've never been like a full-time activist, and I don't think I ever will be because that's just not my path. So it was always like a tug of war between my schooling, which I had to do full-time in high school, and now I'm doing full-time in college, but for something different, and the work that I do for the planet and taking action. And it's very interesting to see with the youth climate movement how a lot of young people are coming in and then getting kind of burnt out early because we're doing so much so fast when we're so young while managing a full-time schedule as students. You know, very few of us are homeschooled, or like I went to a normal, you know, high school. Very few of us kind of back up on our schedule. So we're kind of doing like 2 full-time jobs, both unpaid. So I guess for me, I've been trying to learn how to balance my understanding that there is a huge ecological issue that we're facing, but then also like understanding that there has to be some level of self-preservation in order for me to stay in this work. Like before, I used to kind of like ignore things about like self-care. I'd be like, yeah, whatever, okay, we're in a climate crisis. There's no time for self-care. We got to go now. Like, look, everything's burning, everything's melting. Like, let's go. But then I got burnt out like several times, and I realized like, oh, this whole self-care thing is actually quite strategic for the movement, because if we burn out, then we're not left here to fight. If everyone burns out, then there's no one fighting the fight. And the oil industry is quite literally a well-oiled machine. So they got enough money and people to just keep going and going. And if we let ourselves burn out, if we don't take care of ourselves as a movement, then we're going to be very weak up against them. So I started to, I guess what seemed counterintuitive was to like, you know, start focusing on other aspects of my life and cutting back on some of the time that I was doing this work while still doing a lot of it. And I realized that I was able to be a lot more effective when I kind of took a deep breath and was able to fulfill other aspects of my life and then come back to this work in a much healthier way. So that's just some observations I've had of just some things I've been working on, of like how to interact with the movement in a healthier way that isn't extracting from myself like the oil industry is extracting from the earth. Because I had a very unhealthy relationship with like how I worked. I was just like, I would be very tired and burnt out, but I'd still be like taking for myself and taking and working. Which I realized was like kind of treating myself the way a lot of folks treat the earth, which is kind of counterintuitive and hypocritical. So I learned to not do that. In more of like the global sense, so that was just some observations I've had personally, but in more of the global sense, it is a very difficult time. I'm living in the United States, and we currently have a interesting president who is not doing anything right, and is currently, with the coronavirus, with the climate crisis, with everything, is absolutely disastrous. And I guess we've just really been focused. I've been really focused electorally on like, we have to get him out of there. We have to get him out of there. We have to get him out of there. So I've been working on that. And it's kind of hard for me to see globally, because I feel like in the United States is, it's very interesting for me when I go to another country and then come back to the United States to kind of see how most other countries that I've been to kind of have a sort of sense of where they exist in the world and that they're not alone and that there are other people. But the United States has a very like exceptionalist, we are the only ones here kind of way of existing that I've always found very wrong. And so, you know, it's been very difficult for me to kind of view things on a global scale, because I've just been so focused on all of our problems. We're horribly handling the coronavirus, horribly handling the climate crisis. There have been, you know, I just had a very traumatizing experience at a protest against police brutality, because the day before yesterday, I attended a protest in Times Square, New York City, that a friend of mine had organized. because another Black person had been murdered by the police here in the United States. And there's just, there's just so many names. And so I went to the protest, and it was peaceful. It was great. Like, it was a very beautiful protest. But then right when we started to march, a car drove full speed through the crowd in Times Square, attempting to murder people. The police stood by like this, just watched, didn't chase the car, just watched in the middle of Times Square, New York, one of the busiest, most touristy places in the world. And then after that, the organizers rallied, checked to make sure everyone was safe, no one was injured. It was a miracle that no one got seriously hurt, but it was pretty traumatizing. And then, at the end of the march, there was this car that kept circling and circling. We were kind of wrapping up. We were finishing up. There were some people finishing up speeches. I was just there to listen and be an ally to the movement. So I was just like listening to people talk. And then there was this black car that kept circling and circling and circling. And then I heard someone screaming, "He has a gun, he has a gun." And so we ran for our lives into the subway system, and people were like banging, because some people didn't have their Metro cards. So the subway people had to like open up the doors and let everyone run in, and we caught the first subway out of there. And I guess like that was 2 near-death experiences in one protest. So that's just a little example of what is happening here, and kind of how this violence is getting normalized. In both instances, the cops, they just stood by. They didn't do anything. They didn't bother to keep anyone safe, which I'm not surprised by at all. But it's just, I guess when you're asking me, how do I, what's my global perspective? How do I think about the world? I'm just so bogged down with what's happening at home and all of these different issues. It's honestly hard for me to envision, like, what will our world look like? How will we get out of this, when I just feel like I'm constantly like responding to an emergency? Oh, police brutality, respond to that. COVID issues, respond to that, respond to that, respond to that. Like, I feel like I'm just in rapid response mode to a bunch of issues kind of being thrown at me that I haven't properly had a chance to reflect of like how we're gonna get out of this, because I've just been in like dodging mode of like dodge issue, react to this. I've just been consistently reacting. So
I hear you. And that's one reason why we have this panel today, so we can get together, perhaps come to how take the local experiences and weave it together into maybe a global experience and a global call to action. And I want to thank you, Jamie, for bringing up the issue of burnout, because I think all of us on this panel have had to deal with that. And it's kind of like like you were saying, the equivalent between like the balance of nature, the balance of our individual lives is so important, so that we can keep being effective activists. Did you want to say anything else, and then we'll move to the next?
No, I guess like all I wanted to say is that, now I'm trying to focus on, I think art is an incredible way to communicate a cause and to communicate for action. And I think art is like a universal language. So that's why I decided I've always had a deep love for movies and shows. And like, that's what keeps me going when the world is like too much. I immerse myself in that world. And so that's why I'm going to film school, to like become, I truly believe that like art and film and media has the power to like influence the masses and like change people. So I decided, initially a lot of people were like, oh, you should be a politician, but that doesn't bring me joy. And that's not how I see myself in the world. I see myself more as an artist who kind of helps shift the culture. And then there will other people who will, hopefully be the better politicians than the ones that we have now. So that's just kind of the place that my life is going to, is that I'm studying film and television, so I can help make those pieces of art that help change the culture for the better.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I think for me, the messages of the media become the fabric of our culture. So that is a very important way to go. In fact, I always say, be the media. We don't, it's like, be the change in the world, like be the media. If you don't like what you're seeing in the media, be the media. So thank you so much, Jamie Margolin. Let's hear now from Audrey Kitagawa. Audrey Kitagawa, JD, is chair of the Parliament of the World's Religions, president of the Light of Awareness International Spiritual Family, and a former advisor to the Office of the Special Representative of the Secretary General for Children and Armed Conflict at the United Nations. She is the recipient of the Spirit of the UN Award. Welcome to the broadcast, Audrey Kitagawa. It's wonderful to have you on this panel, both to help launch the 16th anniversary of 11 Days of Global Unity, and because the launch date, September 11th, is a significant date for multiple reasons, including for the Parliament of the World's Religions. Please talk about that and then give us your thoughts about the current moment we are in now and how interfaith harmony is important at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rick, and the We the World for its annual initiative that your organization presents every year, the 11 Days of Global Unity. And it really brings together diverse constituencies around the world to share with each other and your wider audience about significant global issues. And I feel very privileged to be part of today's panel. The Parliament of the World's Religions is celebrating its 127th anniversary on September 11th, since its inaugural convening in Chicago, where Swami Vivekananda gave that resounding address calling for global unity. I want to share the beautiful words which he said from a childhood hymn at his speech during this inaugural convening, and it goes, "As the streams, having their sources in different paths, which men take through different tendencies, various though they appear, crooked or straight, all lead to thee." The speech that he gave is so relevant for the issues which we are discussing today, because it is really well worth hearing again. He said that the Parliament's inaugural convening was a declaration to the world of the wonderful doctrine preached in the Bhagavad Gita. And it says, "Whosoever comes to me, through whatsoever form, I reach him. All men are struggling through paths, which in the end lead to me." And that is a capital Me, the divine Godhead. He continued on saying, sectarianism, bigotry, and its horrible descendant fanaticism have long possessed this beautiful earth. They have filled the earth with violence, drenched it often and often with human blood, destroyed civilizations, and sent whole nations to despair. Had it not been for these horrible demons, human society would be far more advanced than it is now. But their time is come, and I fervently hope that the bell that tolled this morning in honor of this convention may be the death knell of all fanaticism, of all persecutions with the sword or with the pen, and of all uncharitable feelings between persons wending their way to the same goal. So it is very fitting that this seminal speech continues to survive through the eons of history, because it serves as a perpetual reminder that we must ultimately remember that we are traveling on a sacred journey that leads us to the awakening of our eternal union with the divine. So with respect to the specific issues raised today on the COVID pandemic, on racism and climate, I would like to share the importance of the Parliament's work in these three areas. First, during the COVID outbreak, with the world locked down, the Parliament issued a very important statement on this global crisis. We expressed our gratitude first to the first responders and medical professionals for their courage and dedication. We asked that we all be mindful not to behave in ways that would put others at risk. We asked for all of us to protect and care for one another, which is what communities of faith are called to do as fundamental to the teachings of sacred scriptures that always guide us to care for those in need. Importantly, the Parliament joined with interfaith and interreligious organizations across the globe to work together for a worldwide community that embraces love, compassion, justice, and peace. Second, on its work on racism, the Parliament also issued a joint statement with Religions for Peace, the Interfaith Center of New York, and United Religions Initiative that we commit to specific actions of prayer to address racism, use our voices to speak up for racial justice and economic justice, ask that people of faith educate themselves about the real impacts of racism, and to understand and sojourn with movements led by persons of color for justice, equality, and equity. We also called for support for efforts at diversity, equity, and inclusion in our places of worship, workplaces, and all spectrums within our lives. We also encourage volunteerism and philanthropic commitments to institutions working to advance racial justice and harmony. We are all participating, we're also participating in the G20 Interfaith Forum in a consultative process that is designed to bring recommendations from this body to the political leaders during their G20 convening. And in that sense, it is very much track to diplomacy, where we hope that civil society and especially members of the faith communities will have some connection to influence the leadership of the G20. Third, on climate action, the Parliament has a very, very active and dynamic climate action task force that seeks to bring awareness about this great climate challenge. We are also very active with the United Nations Environment Programme's Interfaith Rainforest Initiative and Faith for Earth programs. We produced a video with Jane Goodall and UNEP's Interfaith Rainforest Initiative, which showed the destruction of our rainforests and mismanagement of our environment, which have direct correlation with animal to human pathogenic transfers that are causative of these viral diseases, of which COVID-19 has animal origins. So the role of the Parliament of the World's Religions seeks to bring harmony among the religions, and through our cooperative engagement, to work together to face global challenges. And we can together create important global movements that can come about that creates a tipping point by which mass transformation can take place for the betterment of humanity. The Parliament's inaugural convening 127 years ago helped to launch the global interfaith movement. Today, we can see the fruits of that effort through the formation of multitudes of interfaith organizations who understand the importance of communities of faith to work together. Together, we can move mountains. You know, there's a saying in the book of Matthew that is very powerful. It says, if ye have faith as a grain of a mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall move, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. So let us develop the faith ever more deeply, knowing that it is this faith coupled with our good actions that will help to create global transformation. So thank you so much.
Thank you. That's so beautiful. And let's now bring in our final guest. Yvette Taki is the Business Development Regional Manager of Middle East and Africa, ASEC, the largest youth-led organization in the world, present in over 100 countries, 120 countries and territories. With an academic background in nutrition and science, Yvette has 4 years of active participation in youth development and empowerment, tackling the Sustainable Development Goals towards economic empowerment. Welcome to this summit, Yvette Taki, and please react to anything you've heard so far, and please give us your perspective on the current moment we are in and your response to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rick, and thank you to everybody for being here. I'm really, connected with a lot of things that Dr. Vandana, Audrey, Diane, and Jamie have all mentioned, because these are things that for me as a young person, I'm sure Jamie also can relate, that we face every day in our lives. The world is changing at an exponential rate. I think it has been for a very long time, but we just refuse to see it. And we need certain things. It's taking certain actions, certain catalysts to happen before we've been able to realize that the world is falling at a very, very fast rate. So I joined ISEC when I was in university. And even though I'd been in leadership for a while, that wasn't the kind of leadership that I was exposed to or I had been, working in. So joining the organization gave me the opportunity to broaden my horizon, to broaden my mind, to open my mind to see that I'm not just the only person in this world. There are other people who live, and see the amazing things that young people are doing. So ISEC started in 1948 after the Second World War, and 72 years down the line, we have tried consistently in every aspect of our operations and whatever we do to empower young people to develop their leadership potential, because we believe that young people are the future of the world that we want to see. But for the very longest of time, for the last 72 years, we've done so much by trying to get people internship opportunities, to give them the avenues to develop their leadership styles, career development and all of that. I personally moved to Tanzania the last 3 years from Ghana, to also contribute to that. And I've seen so many things, and it makes me realize what is our definition of leadership? We have everybody talking about climate action, about how colonialism has affected us, about racism, about inequality. But then what is our leadership doing? We have all of these amazing people in places of power that are doing nothing. And it boggles my mind that young people, Jamie said she started when she was 14. Why should a 14-year-old come up and say that you are destroying the earth, you're putting my future into jeopardy, and the adults sit there and watch us and watch young people have to do all of these things? I think that's really important. Why activists are coming up, and they're mainly filled with young people, because they realize that our leadership, they're failing us, and we have to step up and contribute and make the change that we want to see in the world. So for me, when it comes to the issues of racism and inequality, I'm really sad to say that I've had to experience it. I've had to experience racism for me to be able to understand what other people in other parts of the world go through. If you discriminate against somebody just by the color of their skin, then there's no humanity anymore. There's no humanity, whatever the case. And I think that this is the time that leadership is really, really important, from people of the highest levels to young people down the line. How are we training or changing society to tend to look at people and embrace diversity? I think it was Diane and Dr. Vandana that spoke about, embracing diversity, embracing different people, yellow, black, red, white people. We are all the same. We all bleed red. And I think that it would take a very strong leadership for us and for every individual to renew their mind, be empathetic, and understand how other people live, because that's the only way that we can save humanity at this point in time. I really don't know what else we can do. If you're not empathetic, we don't embrace diversity, we don't understand that regardless of our skin color, we all bleed blood. That's the basic fact. And I think that racism has existed for a very long time, and it has to take certain actions for us to see. And I want to believe that the world will move forward, change will come, but it will take all of us, to start the change from ourselves, in our close circles, in our communities, in our countries, and then technically it would happen in the world. So that's really what I think about the things that are happening in the world today.
Yes, so thank you, Yvette. I think we can take just like a minute each to go around and say your final message. Like, what would you like to, what is your call to action to people who are watching this now? And then we'll finish up. Can we go to Diane Longbow? What is your call to action to people who are watching?
Thank you, Rick.
Now, and then we'll
I would say my call to action to the people of the world is to understand your ancestral lineage and to embrace who you are today, how the Creator made you today. And understand that each of us in that ancestral lineage have repairs to do because of the challenges that we've gone through as a human family over the millennia. And until we make those repairs in our ancestral lineage, we can't move forward. And I think that's where we find ourselves really stymied today with the oppressive nature of these global issues. But the ancestors have the answers that we are waiting for. We need to open ourselves up to the ancestors and to embrace them and to say, guide us on that new way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Vandana Shiva, a call to action from you?
Well, I'll only translate my own actions on a daily life into actions that each of us could be taking. First, of course, be the change you want to see. Too much energy is spent on saying, oh, this should change and that should change. But the change begins with us. The second is the big change we need in our time is decolonizing our minds from the assumption that the earth is dead, that some people are inferior and some are superior, and recognizing that we're all members of the earth family, all beings are our relatives, and the human family itself with its diversity of faiths and cultures and colors and genders is also one human family. And in order to hold the earth family and the human family together, we need to realize that we are connected. We have been in denial of interconnectedness because of separatism or because of mechanistic thought. But life is an interconnectedness. Compassion is the flow of interconnectedness and empathy that Desmond Tutu talked about. And letting compassion flourish is a natural way to create new economies, new democracies, new cultures. And this also means realizing that this earth is not to be grabbed by a few people, that privatizing and patenting and claiming you've invented life is a crime against nature, it's a crime against Mother Earth, it's a crime against those who get excluded. And excluded from fundamental rights to food, to a life, to water, and increasingly with the way things are going, a right to our own humanity, a right to our autonomous mind, a right to our bodily integrity. These are foundational issues, and each of us can make a difference by being the change. Reclaiming the commons is going to be the most important thing we do.
Thank you. Thank you. And Jamie Margolin.
My final takeaways is that I feel like a lot of times leaders are always like, the youth will save us, the youth will save us. Oh my God, the young people, you guys inspire. Like I have been to so many like governors, senators, people who have power in the United States who are like, oh, you guys are so inspiring. Oh my God, you're so inspiring. You're going to save us. You're going to save us. And I guess my final thought is to kind of question that whole pressure that leaders who have actual power to make actual change put it on like teenagers just trying to get by and trying to ask for basic changes. We are not going to save you. The young people are demanding change with what the resources we have, which is not much. We're asking for change, we're demanding change, but in the end, right now, it's not on us to be like, we physically can't, pass the laws, make the budgets, do all of the stuff that a lot of politicians can. We can take action, but I find it very infuriating when politicians who are in this position of power, who already have all of the resources they need to make all of the changes they could possibly want, still decide to sit atop their thrones and put it on teenagers begging them to take climate action. And the thing with climate change is that it's not like there's a eternal, like we can just wait forever. We're under a timeline here. So by the time I'm old enough to be in that position of power, it's going to be too late in terms of cutting emissions, in terms of taking all of this action. So I'd really say I'd want us to get rid of that mindset and to get rid of that that way of thinking about youth activism. Youth activism is young people using our voices and our power to do whatever we can with what we have. But that doesn't mean that just because we're taking action, leaders can kick back and do nothing and let us clean up their mess. I'd also love to say, for people who are watching who love to like stay in touch with me or stay in touch with the work that I do, you can reach out to me on social media. I'm Jamie Margolin on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok. So if you want to like continue the conversation, send me a question, reach out, or anything like that, you can reach out to me then. I also recently wrote a book called Youth to Power, Your Voice and How to Use It, which is a guide to being a young organizer for any cause. I wrote this book because young people were constantly asking me, how do I take action? I really want to take action. I really want to take action on climate and other issues. And I keep answering their questions, but then they keep coming back with more. And so I decided, okay, I need to like make this into a permanent thing. So that's why I wrote this book. It has a foreword by youth climate activist Greta Thunberg. And I pretty much just walk you through all of the steps. And it's useful for adults too. So if you want to order the book, you can go to www.youthtopowerbook.com or find Youth to Power at your local bookstore. I worked really hard on the book and it just came out, so I wanted to tell people that that resource exists as well. I hope that you will reach out to me and we can continue this conversation.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jamie. And let's now go to Audrey Kitagawa for your final thoughts and call to action.
Thank you so much, Rick. And my call to action will be one, that we have to take personal responsibility to see how we must change and to never be afraid to turn that searchlight inward and to do the ceaseless, fearless self-examination to see how we must change and to develop our spiritual lives so that we may live more fully and develop more fully our hearts of compassion, love, and loving kindness. And I had a beautiful and loving spiritual mother who said, God is love. If we believe that God is love, then the actualization of the living reality of God in our daily lives, in the seeming ordinariness of daily life, is to bring that reality through every loving thought, word, and action. And this, we have opportunities to do so every moment that we live. And next is the important Sanskrit word that I try to live by, and that is seva. And seva is selfless service. So this is a way in which we can drop selfishness, self-centeredness, self-absorption, and to really serve others without any expectation of reward, compensation, or self-aggrandizement. So it is a selfless, unconditional giving. And also importantly is to have gratitude for this gift of life, for the daily opportunity to put into practice these loving thoughts, words, and actions in every moment that we live. And this, opportunity is represented in this beautiful passage from the book of Matthew that says, I was hungry, you didn't feed me. I was thirsty, you gave me nothing to drink. I was naked, you didn't clothe me. I was in prison and you did not visit me. And so this is a simple expression of a call to see the divine in each person that has come into our lives and to give us the opportunity to serve with deep gratitude for the privilege to do so. For that person is you, and there is no separation. My spiritual mother often said, there's only one power in the universe, and that power is God. So when we remember that all of life is sacred and comes from the divine source. May we live honoring and respecting that sacredness of life. So thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. And Yvette, what's your call to action?
Yeah, I mean, Desmond Tutu said something in his statement. He said that the world has become a place where it's based on me rather than us. And we fail to understand that when our fellow humans hurt, we hurt as well. So for me, I would say that the main call to action would be for people to practice and develop empathy, because I believe that when we put ourselves in the shoes of others and understand how they feel, we will be able to connect with them better. And I think that the world can definitely be a better place in that sense. Also being open-minded, being open-minded to accept things that you are not necessarily used to, and being open to accept that everything is not the same everywhere, and building a community of people that we can grow with, that we can trust, that we love, that even if we do not know them, there's that connection that we are working and striving for a common good. Because I believe that every one of us is a social creature. All of us are social creatures, and community is one key value for us, and that's something that we've developed for thousands of years. But the last thing I would also, like to highlight on is having compassion, which I think I already said before, seeing what others go through and then being able to do something about it, and then amplifying the voices of the change makers that are there, whether they are adults or young people, and working together to save the world that we've come to meet now. I think that's my call to action for today. So
thank you so much. Jim, would you like to come back in and give us your thoughts at the end? Go ahead.
Well, thank you, everyone. First of all, this has been very moving, and the range of perspectives has been quite inspiring to me. So thank you all. I was taken by what Diane said about following in the way of our ancestors, and to understand that we were born for this moment. The earth has brought us into conscious awareness at the most critical time in our relationship with the mother. And each of us has a role to play. And in that regard, I was very struck, Jamie, by your statement around youth. We can't put this all on the youth. It's true at one level that this next generation is ground zero. I have two sons, 28 and 30 years of age, and their generation are going to reap the whirlwind of all the things that we have left undone. And at the same time, the pandemic has left no neutral ground for anybody of any age, any ethnicity, anywhere in the world. We're all being called to account, every single one of us, young and old, rich and poor, east and west. All of us now have to come together in the spirit of global unity. That's why we called our initiative Humanity Rising. I think, given what Vandana Shiva said about how everything is coming together and everything is a manifestation, almost like fractals. We can't just sit around and wait for anybody, any government, any institution to save us. We need to understand that every time we make a choice, we have the option of saving ourselves and all of humankind. And it comes down to every choice that we make every day about what we eat, what we buy, who we support, how we vote, how we live, how we do our jobs. All these decisions coming together, in my view, consciously, with conscious awareness of what's at stake moment by moment. is the anvil upon which human destiny will be determined. So Humanity Rising has been honored to help co-sponsor this panel, and thank you so much, Rick, for your leadership in sustaining this initiative over all these many years. It's a testament to your vision and your faith in the human future. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jim. And well, for me, this has been an extraordinary conversation. I want to thank all the speakers and, of course, Humanity Rising, Unity Earth, and the Sign Network for all your partnership with 11 Days of Global Unity, and the Caravan of Unity, the Upconvergence, and Peace Weekend, all working with We the World to create an extraordinary time in September of 2020. Remember, creating a world that works for all is not a spectator sport. So as Jamie was saying, please get in touch with her and all of us. And we encourage you to get involved and join the We team of We the World by going to we.net. You can connect and begin collaborating as an individual or as an organization. Also, we'll be having powerful dialogues every day of the 11 days during September, from September 11th through the 21st, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And it's on all of the 11 themes. You can find out more by going to we.net or 11daysofglobalunity.org. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much. And it's on all of the 11 themes. You can find out more by going to we.net or 11daysofglobalunity.org. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much. And it's on all of the 11 themes. You can find out more by going to we.net or 11daysofglobalunity.org. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to our Welcome to We show, the special episode here. How do we shape peace? This is a really amazing topic that we're going to be talking about. So welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining with us. We would love to hear from you, and if you could type into the chat where you're watching from so we can give a big shout out to our global family. I'm Karen Palmer. I am one of your hosts here for this amazing show. I am so thrilled for all of our guests that we have this week. I can't wait to share everybody with you. And, you know, this is where we go into those three I's that make a we. So we inform, we inspire, and we involve you. And that's what's so exciting about how we go from a me society to a we society. And I get to share these beautiful guests, but I also get to share the screen with my amazing co-host, the incredible Rick Alphick, who is the founder of We the World. You can learn about We the World at we.net. And also, Rick is the co-creator of the 11 Days of Global Unity, 11 ways to change the world, with participants that include Desmond Tutu, Jane Goodall, Deepak Chopra, Eve Ensler, Bill McKibben, and many, many more. I am so excited to be able to do this show with you, Rick. Thanks so much for putting all these people together. Yay!
Yay, and what an amazing, extraordinary show we're going to have today. I'm so excited. And before we go any further, let me tell folks about you. Karen Palmer is a global kindness leader and a live stream social media expert who co-produces several popular online talk shows, including this one. She is a best-selling author and is coordinator of We the World's Campaign for Women. You can connect with her by going to Global Kindness TV And as Karen mentioned, in case anybody watching this wants to find out more about We the World and the We campaign and possibly collaborate with us or even join our We team, you can go to we.net where you can sign up yourself or your organization or both. So we are living at a time of great challenges to our societies and to our entire civilization. As the world has seen, the pandemic has proved to be the most deadly to those who have already suffered from decades and longer of catastrophic racial and economic inequality. Frustration and rage has been intensified by the deadly use of force by police and others against unarmed African Americans. George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and others are unfortunately being added to
The bonds of friendship is part of what we're working on, working across differences. I did want to mention that I feel like at this moment, it's important for each of us to find a network of support and to find some kind of program to do the inner work that needs to be done. And I wanted to close with let me just mention that we're working with a group called Showing Up for Racial Justice and building that into our Sustainable Floridians
be part of the We team there. And anything else you would like to say, Karen, as we close?
Well, I'd love for you to share with everybody our beautiful quote from our dear friend, Jonathan Granoff. I think that that's a wonderful way for us to end it. I just want to say what an honor it is to be in circle with all of you and to really, really hear your wisdom, your love, your care, and to know that we are doing those 3 I's to make that we, you know, we are inspiring, we are informing, and we are involving millions of people now, Rick, right? Millions of people. We're reaching millions of people with the love of this technology and the Sign Network and all the work that Unity Earth is doing. I mean, we're just really collaborating in a way that I never thought was possible, but is really happening. So thank you, Rick. Thank you so much.
Yes. So what you were talking about with Jonathan, at the launch of the We campaign in We.net about 9 or 10 years ago, Jonathan said at the very end of his talk, I hope that we expands so much that there is no longer any them. Thank you all, and bye-bye. Jonathan said at the very end, it's all about we.
All about we.
Expands so much.